So in 2012, the president of the country made an announcement to commemorate the Rio conference, whereby he mentioned that Seychelles wants to go forward with implementation of 30% of its EZ as protected areas. So this was a milestone back then. In recent years, there's been a lot of talk about 30 by 30, but Seychelles made a statement to the world way back in 2012. And following this announcement, there was a lot of excitement from external partners. And this is where we got approached by the Nature Conservancy about a very innovative way of raising funds called the debt swap for nature or for adaptation. And at the time also, Seychelles had a very large external debt. And the debt swap is most ideal for such situations where a country has a substantial external debt with creditors, at the same time having a very significant conservation objectives. So this is where discussion started, government and the Nature Conservancy, along with other partners who were associated with the Nature Conservancy, to start working on a scheme called a debt swap. And this process took a long time. Just the negotiation for the debt revision and rescheduling took 4 years, and the whole process took about 6 years, which led to a deal of $21.6 million as part of the debt swap. And this happened only through active engagement of different partners, not only external NGOs, international NGOs, but also impact investors. So through the TNC and the GF, we managed to bring on board other partners, as well as philanthropists, donors, individuals who were willing and was very excited by the idea to finance conservation. And this is when we announced the debt swap deal in 2018. We started working on the architecture in terms of how the proceeds will be used in line with our conservation objectives. And back in 2015 also, the necessary institution to manage this proceed from the debt swap was created. This is where SeyCCAT was born. The Seychelles Conservation and Climate Adaptation Trust was created as a mechanism who would manage the proceeds to the debt swap. That is to give back the benefits from the debt swap back to conservation, to projects, to activities related to the marine environment. And following the creation of SeyCCAT, we put in place a program called the Blue Grants, which directly gives out financing on an annual basis based on the different objectives of SeyCCAT, more or less related to ocean conservation, marine protected areas, climate change adaptation and mitigation, as well as risk reduction, disaster risk reduction, and the promotion of the blue economy. So after the deal, the debt swap, this guaranteed a steady stream of financing for the next 20 years for marine conservation, going to the efforts related to the 30% protection, but also in general within these areas. So following the debt swap, the world saw that Seychelles was willing to go forward with such innovative and creative ways of financing. And this is where the blue bonds, the world's first blue bonds, came about, again through a very important partnership with the World Bank, with the GF, and also investors to issue the very first blue bonds. And this proceed from the blue bonds. Part of it went to SeyCCAT in the Blue Grants program to finance projects on the ground, as well as through our National Development Bank to finance business proposals or investments in the blue economy sector, primarily looking at sustainable fishing businesses and investments. And obviously following these two innovative undertaking, there was an increased interest by external partners, by international NGOs, other investors to work with SeyCCAT, more or less building up on the experience and also on the resources that Seychelles managed to get through the debt swap and the blue bonds scheme. So following that, we continue with our effort, and now the SeyCCAT has two streams whereby it guarantees financing in the long term for Seychelles related to marine protected areas, climate change adaptation, as well as promotion of the blue economy through its Blue Grants program, but also through an endowment fund. So we have an endowment fund that guarantees much longer term financing, which will mature in 2036, and guarantees financing to the most distant future, and continuation of the efforts moving forward to conserve the marine environment. And following obviously these two schemes, we've put in place measures to implement the 30% protection, not only the 30%, but also the remaining 70%, which is more or less the other economic activities. So with the debt swap, with the blue bonds, and also additional projects from donors, from external partners, NGOs, we've managed to get financing to put in place the institutional entity that will oversee the whole process of the Marine Spatial Plan, and also the efficient management of these areas that's been designated under the MSP, the 30% in the long term, and also the institutional requirements like management plans, which will guide the different area managers in their work. But however, the effort doesn't stop there. Though we've been successful with these two huge undertakings, we're not resting on our laurels. We're still looking at continuing with our effort. We've shown that we now have the experience, expertise, and know-how in terms of how to go about these undertakings. So for the future also, we aim to continue with this momentum. That is to look at other sources of financing, other partners who's willing to come forward and work with us in line with our conservation objectives. Seychelles has a very long history in terms of environment conservation. So on the marine conservation side also, it's been more than 50 years since we established the very first marine park in the Western Indian Ocean region. And our objective is to conserve nature, but also in line with the function of a marine park, marine protected area, is to ensure sustainable management of resources for the benefit of the communities and stakeholders that use the marine protected area directly and indirectly. And in Seychelles, obviously the network of MPAs has been run by state-owned enterprises, but also private entities like NGOs together with islands, private islands. So we've been actively involved with marine conservation through these marine protected areas, to ensure that we meet our national conservation objectives, as well as the needs, the local needs of the area. And we've been very successful for so long. And Seychelles has always been seen as ideal example in the world in terms of implementation of marine conservation measures and practices, but also showcasing how also to raise financing to manage and put in place operations within these areas. So the NGOs has been very, very active, as well as on the government side, parastatal body who is responsible for parks, has been very active in mobilizing resources through various of means, private as well as through public financing, which brought more or less the percentage to 1% protected area within our huge EEZ, which spans for an area of over 1.3 million square kilometers. However, we had bigger objectives in terms of our conservation targets, and also in line with developments on the international scene in terms of how the world should conserve the marine environment.